Don't take yourself for granted. I believe in not taking yourself for granted. When I say this, I mean do not do stupid things to be cool or just to have a good time when you're putting yourself in danger. For me, I'm all about that. I've done many dim-witted things in the past that I now regret because of the anxiety to do better in some things, or just to be the most out of control. This is usually a factor for me when I go snowboarding or play any sport. When I go snowboarding, I'm usually going off jumps flying through the air. The only thing is I'm usually out of control. When I was in 8th grade, I went on a trip with 2 other families to Aspen, Colorado. A day before we left, I got a cast off my arm from a fracture that occurred 2 weeks before. My doctor sent me a letter telling my family that he does not support me going snowboarding after the injury that has already taken place. My family decided I could not miss this trip. The first day on the slopes, the snowboarding was remarkable. The weather was just under 40 degrees and the sun was beating down on the snow. Conditions were perfect. I was snowboarding with my 2 friends, Ryan and Alex, and we were having a great time. However, Ryan and I wanted to check out the terrain park, but Alex was not big on terrain parks. So Alex decided to go snowboarding with his parents while Ryan and I tested out the terrain. As soon as we got there, we realized how big the jumps were and how amazing the rails were. On our way down the terrain park, we did a couple rails and some small jumps to familiarize ourselves. Then, towards the end of the park, we saw a jump that was around 10 feet in elevation and a man taking pictures, so we knew we had to go for it. Ryan went first, but he went slowly to not be too insane the first time around. As soon as I saw him on the other side of the jump waving me to go, I took off. I thought I was going to need a lot of speed in order to make it onto the landing pad after the jump. As soon as I was airborne, I knew something was wrong. I had over-rotated my jump and had to prepare myself for a fall I knew I would remember for a long time. I was leaning way too far back, and I was flapping my arms like a bird in order to pull myself forward. It did not work. I hit the ground on my tailbone, and I knew I had a bad injury. I was in the most pain I have ever had to deal with. Ryan came over to me to help me up, but I could not move. The next thing I knew, there were 10 people surrounding me, as well as the ski patrol with a stretcher. I was taken down the mountain on a stretcher. They got me to the hospital at the bottom of the mountain, and I laid in my bed until my parents arrived. As soon as my parents arrived, I was taken into the x-ray room so they could find out if anything was broken. As I left, the doctors told me I could have a possible stress fracture in my tailbone, but I was lucky I had not landed on an inch farther up on my back. I could have been paralyzed from the waist down if I had over-rotated anymore. When I got back to the hotel where we were staying, I laid on my stomach and just thought about what happened. I realized that I needed to start taking better care of myself and not taking myself for granted. I've done many dumb things in my life, but this was one of the dumbest. If I had landed on my back, I would never be able to play any of the sports that I love so much ever again. I might not have ever survived. I believe that you should not take yourself for granted so you can live life like you want to each and every day.